Hey, what up, boxing fans? This is the Rope-A-Dope Report. I am your host, Chris Carlson. I'm back with another upload here. Of course, you can follow me at Rope-A-Dope Radio on Twitter. Check out the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast anytime by downloading it on iTunes, or you can check it out at blogtalkradio.com/, Rope-A-Dope Radio. You can listen to that live on Wednesdays or anytime, like I mentioned, or any place you like to listen to podcasts. It's basically there. Anyway, let's get to the nitty gritty of this upload, right? Of course, tomorrow afternoon, in a nice little spot for boxing and, of course, Errol Spence, I guess Leonard Bundu as well, not to completely count him out all the way, like many are, which, it is a fight that Spence seems to be the clear favorite. So this is for the Errol Spence Leonard Bundu fight tomorrow afternoon. That's Sunday afternoon. Little different, obviously. Last year we did have some afternoon. I believe we had one or two Sunday afternoons last year, but most of them were Saturday afternoons. It'll be interesting to see the ratings on this one. Obviously, it's tucked nicely, nuzzled up nicely. Right after the lead-in is the gold medal basketball game with the U.S. team involved, right? More than likely going to win. I didn't actually find out who they're going against. Is it Serbia? I can't remember who won that other semifinal. Anyway, it's a really tight window, right? And they must have, paid a pretty penny for this one. I mean, they had to have really paid some money for this slot because obviously the ratings should be pretty good, especially for an afternoon. Anyway, and then the closing ceremonies for the Olympics will be in primetime Sunday night. So, like I said, it's nuzzled in a great spot there, and it's a great look. It's a great look for Errol Spence, no doubt about it. And when breaking this fight down, let's be honest, with Leonard Bundu, there is a chance that if you look at the judging off of the Thurman fight, that this could be a slow fight, a bit of a bore. His style, at least the style he fought Thurman in, was slow, no doubt about it. But Thurman kind of attribute to that as well. And we'll break down that Thurman fight a little bit with Bundu. Bundu's faced some other guys, Frankie Gavin. He's faced some guys that you've heard of, but he's what is he, 41? Is he 42? 41, I don't know. He's definitely an old guy for boxing standards. Don't tell that to B-Hop, but that's a different story. Nothing really stands out with Bundu. Not the way, obviously, a guy like Spence does anyway. And, if you look at his record, like I said, his resume and also his knockouts, you think, man, this guy can't punch, this, that, the other. But he is a wily vet in there, no doubt about it. And if you just take out the Thurman fight and look at his numbers as far as punch rate and everything like that, he's not a guy that is not active like he was in that fight. Neither guy was that active, let's be honest, Thurman or Bundu. But heading into it, in sense, I guess you could say, you look at his numbers, and I think his CompuBox numbers, and I'm not trying to, CompuBox doesn't win fights. I'm just, getting a feel of work rate. And he was in the well over 600 punch range. So he can be a busy fighter. I think maybe we can't just fall for that one fight with Thurman. Errol Spence has been a guy, since 2 Junes ago. I remember the Broner Porter fight on NBC. I think it was June 20th, if I'm correct. Floyd Mayweather, in his attempt to sign Spence, failed attempt, he was saying, this guy needs an opportunity. This guy's knocking on the door. No one's answering. He thinks at that time Keith Thurman, the winner of Broner Porter, Danny Garcia, the top flight welterweight should give this guy a chance. And most of them were in the same spot a couple years back, especially like a Thurman. You know what I mean? Where the reward is not quite worth the risk. And so some people are not excited about this fight. And from a stylistic matchup, potentially anyway, yeah, I can see that. Like I said off the top, this could be a bore. This could be a slow fight, no doubt about it. But Thurman and Spence do fight a different way. Not that Spence is this crazy aggressive guy, but he's definitely more assertive, let's say in the first handful of rounds, than we've seen out of Thurman, no doubt about that. So maybe he'll assert his self, right? And also the spot. This is a big spot, and you never know. A young fighter, he's saying in the lead up, he's saying all the right things. He's saying that if the knockout comes, that's cool, but the goal is to win it. I want to put on a great performance. I want to go for the knockout. I want to do something Keith Thurman didn't do, like he did in his last fight, Algieri, when he knocked out Algieri in the 5th round. Guys like Provodnikov who can punch, and we know Manny Pacquiao has plenty of power, so they couldn't even do that. So literally in April, this last April on NBC, he put on a display, man. Oh my gosh, hooks, uppercuts. I mean, that hook that he hit near the end, Algieri, that he hit Algieri with, just, basically turned Algieri into his own shoulder. I mean, it wasn't a snap the neck. It was, it was nasty. And I had some buddies over that night. I knew I was pumped about the Glavosky-Cunningham fight as well, which that turned out to be a barn burner. In that middle fight, K-Rod against Marcus Brown, that was a good fight. Most people think, K-Rod should have gotten that win, but I had I had a handful of people over because I knew it was going to be a good card. And after the fight, especially the Spence fight, I mean, they enjoyed the other two, but just the performance wasn't a two-way fight, but the performance of Spence had my buddies who are casual, the ones that were over were casual boxing fans. They were like, hey, next time Spence fights, tell me, next time Errol Spence is on TV, you got to let me know. So he definitely put the welterweight division on blast, sending a clear message that, hey, I'm the guy here, and you need to give me an opportunity. So obviously, like I said, the matchup isn't necessarily stylistically intriguing, mouth-watering, we could say. No, it's not. But let's remember, Sammy Vasquez, who recently just lost to Felix Diaz. That was a tough fight for him. He passed on the fight, which I think it was smart for him. Obviously, now that we've seen the Diaz fight, it was smart anyway. But I thought it was smart then. I didn't think he was ready for him, and I think that Diaz fight makes that clear. A guy, Jeff Horn, he passed on the fight. Originally, the top-ranked prospect looked like he was going to take the fight, but he got injured, so he had to pass on the fight. And then Lamont Peterson. Lamont Peterson, who, by the way, beat Felix Diaz last fall, it looked like he was lined up, if you look at the WBC rankings and that unofficial, official, but never happened tournament. It was going to be Berto and Lamont fighting each other, but Berto went a different direction. He decided to go for Ortiz. And Berto, or I should say, so Lamont Peterson passed on on this fight as well. So, you go down the rankings and Bundu popped up here and he took the fight. So I'm not going to sit there and rip the fight. And in fact, he's been knocking a lot of people out lately, Spence, right? So a young fighter needs rounds. So if he can, in fact, go a full 12 rounds, he can get something out of this fight, no doubt about it. If you listen to Keith Thurman and what he got out of this fight, he said he learned some valuable lessons. And he also showed he could, he could win a fight in different ways. And it'll be interesting to see if a similar circumstance takes place where he may knock him down or get him hurt early, Spence I'm talking about, and then Bundu maybe, does something to prevent him from getting taken out. Because if you look at that, and let's talk about that Thurman Bundu fight, right? Much was made about Bundu making it to full 12 rounds, which at that time not many people were doing that with Thurman. And he also got a lot of criticism, Thurman did. So I'll say this right now. Don't be surprised if criticism comes Errol Spence's way if he doesn't go, really, really for the knockout. Obviously, each individual fight's a little bit different. Take a little sip of water there. Sorry about that. Each individual performance and situation is different, right? Who knows? Maybe he'd get hurt in a fight and it forced him to use a different hand, and so he couldn't set up his punches to knock him out. Who knows, right? Who knows? But just breaking down that fight, the first, minute of that Bundu-Thurman fight, there was a left hook. It dropped him right to the canvas. And it was like, well, here we go. And it looked like he was kind of, I'm not going to say going in for the kill per se, but he was going in to land some more, big stuff. And what do you know? Bundu hit him, Thurman I'm speaking of, with a nice left hook. And it kind of sent Thurman back. I'm not going to say he was as hurt as he was, in that Soto Karass fight early, like a shot like that. It wasn't like that, but it definitely made him tentative after that. Thurman really just, for most of the fight, jabbed, circled Bundu, pot shots. He was hesitant. But Bundu would get close to him but wouldn't throw. In fact, it was just really wild kind of counter random punches that he would throw. Now later, Thurman did pick up the pace very minutely, like 2-punch combos type stuff. So we'll see. You know what I mean? We'll see, because Bundu, like I said, he doesn't have a ton of power, but he does work the body very well. And he hit Thurman with flush enough shots to basically tame, to an extent, offensively, contain, whatever you want to say. I'd say contain him, that he did contain him. Now, he lost the fight. He didn't win rounds. He fought, considering you're losing a bunch of rounds in a row, was he just surviving? I don't know, because he was getting so close to him, but he just wouldn't throw his hands. So hopefully Bundu learns from that as well. And like I said, Bundu's just a solid guy. And I do think that if a guy like Spence needs to be challenged, no doubt about it. And hopefully, maybe he'll come out a little more aggressive than he should be and get caught similar to Thurman. And it makes for a good two-way fight. I hope it's a two-way fight, just obviously as a spectator. But, a young prospect who's really now contender range after that Algieri fight, right? He needs to be tested. But even if he could get 12 or 10 at least rounds out of this, that I think that would do something. I know that I've had some back and forth with people about that subject and how they just don't like this fight and yada, yada, yada. But, he still hasn't faced a top flight guy. Algieri was a second tier welterweight and he damaged him, right? But they did try to get Lamont and a couple other guys, and, Bundu was right down the ranking. So let's say he gets this done, right? And I'm picking Errol Spence, and I'm actually gonna go late technical stoppage. I'm just gonna put that out there. Kell Brook fighting Golovkin September 10th. You saw his 30-day weigh-in. What's that mean? I don't know. You know what I mean? I really don't know. Does it mean that he'll never be back at 147? Well, that probably has a lot to do with, how he fights the fight against Golovkin, right? If he's really competitive, who knows? He may stay at 54 and 60. Or he may say, well, if I can make 47, why not clear that out completely and then move up? Who knows? He may be at 54. There is a lot of young talent there. So I really don't know if Kell Brook's going to come back to 147, and he may feel so good in camp and on fight night at that higher weight that he says, screw it, I'm not going back to 47. We may see a guy we haven't seen in quite some time out of Kell Brook that night. You never know. You never know. So obviously that would be, if not next for Kell Brook, he'd basically have to make some sort of decision. Now, we know unifications can get in the way, which Danny Garcia qualifies under that. I guess you could say Manny Pacquiao and Vargas, the winner of that, qualifies under that. So, and Thurman, of course. So who really knows what's next for him? I'm going to take a guess and say Brook is not going to go right into Errol Spence, especially if he were to get knocked out or something like that. I really don't know. I really don't know. Let's act like, that's obviously a great fight for him, Kell Brook. If Spence gets through Bundu and then fights Kell Brook, well, that's a great step-up fight. However, the fact that a title, because let's say he vacates this scenario, let's say he vacates, right? Well, if Kell were to vacate, then maybe a guy like Lamont Peterson would jump all over this matchup because it has a belt. You have the risk, the reward, and the reward is money, right? But it's also a belt, which he turned down this eliminator because he's also close in line with Danny Garcia as well. So, it'd be interesting to see how this works out. But a Lamont Peterson, Errol Spence fight would be another step in the right direction for Spence, as long as obviously he gets past Bundu. And I'm not trying to disrespect Bundu. He's an old man when it comes to boxing. We'll see. We'll see if he can hold up to the power, the skill, in the more aggressive, I would say, Spence. Although just a little bit ago, just yesterday or the day before during his interviews, he was saying that he's not gonna go in there and try to do some highlight reel knockout. So we'll see. But when you got a guy hurt, sometimes you change your mind. So anyway, and big shots out to Shakur Stevenson today, who fell short in the gold medal round against Ramirez, but U.S. versus Cuba, I guess that hadn't happened in quite some time for the gold medal round. I know back in the 80s and 90s, especially the 90s, they tried to push those U.S. and Cuban fighters to the quarterfinals sometimes when the U.S. was producing. But you know what? He didn't get the gold, but hey, he's got a bright future. Hopefully, Clarissa Shields tomorrow afternoon, prior to this fight that I'm talking about here, gets it done too, gets a gold medal this time, be back-to-back golds. And Ramirez is now a back-to-back gold medalist, man, at age 22. So big shouts out to him and the U.S. team. They brought 6 men, and 2 of them medaled, a silver and a bronze. And I think Gary Russell Jr. should be called a medalist because I think that quarterfinal, I'm not trying to supersede him in the semi and be like, oh, he would have been in the gold medal round. I'm not talking about that. That's why I'm just calling. I think he should have medaled. He should have been a medalist. So really, out of 6 men, 3 of them medaled in my eyes, right? And then 2 women, and obviously one of them is going to medal no matter what. So that's an improvement. Obviously, there's still a lot of crooked stuff going on in the Olympics or boxing in general, not just the Olympics, boxing, just in general. Anything you can judge, you look at gymnastics, you look at figure skating in the Winter Olympics, a lot of these types of judgment calls, outcomes, that decides the outcome, they can be taken advantage of. It's a lot easier just to beat a guy or a girl, right? A female in a race, right? I beat you in a race. That's what I did like about many individual sports like wrestling. There's a point system, so it's not a punch landed system. It's not it's a point system. So if I took you down, I get the points for it. You know what I mean? So it is what it is, though. But the fact that they did the pro scoring and they took the headgear off, it did make for more entertainment. Like I said, you still had the bad decisions and robberies, but that's going to happen. But it doesn't really surprise me that the U.S. team did better in that scenario, though. No headgear in a pro scoring system. But anyway, I'm out of here. I got Spence by late stoppage. I think he's going to be able to TKO him or something like that. And also, this venue is very interesting. We know New York City is having some issues with the insurance stuff. It's a real bummer, man, because this Barclays and the Brooklyn brand, the Brooklyn boxing brand that they got going on, they have a plan to have 5 venues throughout New York City for boxing. Not all the way boxing, but different venues they can do, instead of bringing everything to the Barclays. And this is a perfect example. This is in Coney Island. It's an amphitheater. It's an outdoor amphitheater. And I think it seats like 3,000-4,000, something like that. But it's going to be cool to see that. I think it's right there on the shore. So that's kind of a cool venue. And like I said, a really great spot. The PBC, Al Heyman's done a great job moving Spence, I believe, considering people have been turning down the fights too. You know what I mean? So I think, he's gotten a couple of different spots. He got a nice spot before on Spike. Last year on NBC, he fought that co-feature. Unfortunately, the fight fell through. He still fought, but it just wasn't I think what was it, Del Greco back then? Phil Del Greco. But anyway, and then now, recently in April, he headlined the card. So this is a good look for him, man, and I really think he'll take advantage of it. What do you guys think of Spence? Do you believe all the hype? Do you think it's just hype? Do you think Algieri was just a matter of time where he was going to get knocked out, getting knocked down that much with Pacquiao and some of the fights he had been in recently, some wars, even a tough fight with Eric Bonet prior to that? I don't know. I'm high on him. I'm very high on him. Of course, we got to see him in a 2-way fight. We got to see how he responds. We don't know about his chin per se, right? And it is, the movement of him people have started to criticize a little bit. But, like I said, not just turning down the fights, but also, there's still levels. And maybe he's ready for Kell Brook right now. But 2 fights in between, this one and another one wouldn't kill him either. You know what I mean? So who knows? But anyway, let me know what you guys think. You can follow me at Rope-A-Dope Radio on Twitter. Like I mentioned, the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast every Wednesday live, 6 on the West, 9 on the East Coast, and 2 UK time. Let me know what you guys think. Give me your predictions. I got Spence by late stoppage, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if it went the distance. Obviously, Bundu seemed to be very durable, but it's funny because Thurman knocked him down pretty solidly early too. So who knows? Maybe Spence will take care of business. Anyway, I'm out of here. Enjoy the fights tomorrow afternoon. Peace.